Is going on, dudes? How you guys doing? I am TheeRealDuke, and welcome to this episode of my Infinite Heights Minecraft Survival Multiplayer. Try to get you paid, build along with me, collaborative, let's play series. I think those are all of the adjectives that apply to this. Anyway, how you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing okay. As you may have noticed, we have taken a couple weeks break because there has been a map reset on the server. Now, if you're already part of the server, you know this. If you are not a part of the server, what's your problem? Get in here, get you some of this. We have a lot of fun on here. Anyway, so it took a long time to have the build transfer. Now, nobody else got their builds transferred, which is at first seems really not fair. But my build was transferred under a couple very specific and kind of tough conditions, and for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the point of this is to be a collaborative effort between myself and the rest of the server, so everybody's welcome to join in, as are you. If you are not a part of the server, just jump on here and give me a hand. Second, all my items are gone, and the rest of my stuff was reset too. My MCMMO was reset, my money was reset, just like everybody else's stuff. The only thing I was allowed to bring along were the structures that we already built as a community. But I have no items or anything. I really have nothing, just the stuff we made. Also, you can see I have things like gold blocks, and those are still there. But you can clearly see that I'm not cannibalizing them for other purposes because they're still there. And if I would, you would see that. So I'm not going to steal or cheat or, try and game the system for my personal gain, because that's kind of cheap and weak and not how I like to do it anyway. So it took a while to get everything transferred and everything working correctly. I still am missing some spawners, but I'll fix those later. That's not something I need in the immediate future. So last episode we were working on this kind of thing. Now between then and now, I've added some secondary branches, 4 to be exact. One here, one here, one here, and one here. And if you remember some of the principles that we were talking about, working on that triangular shape, which we have roughly kind of going like this, okay? From that angle, and then from the front and the back, we can clearly see this triangular shape that we have going. And then what I wanted to do was try and poke some out. So if we come over here from the side, try and poke some out in this direction, which we have going there. So what we're going to do this episode is I'm going to show you guys how I add the leaves, and I use a basic structure for the leaves, and I'm just going to show you that real quick over here. I'm just going to build up. Just going to build up some logs here. So this is the basic structure, right? I come up from the middle, and I always have them coming off at a diagonal. They're never going straight, okay, in one of the cardinal directions. So they're going at that angle, or at that angle, or that angle, or at that angle. I just think, it's a decision I made that I think adds interest. So the first thing I do, if it's just your standard kind of puffy thing coming off of the side, bush of leaves, little leaf cloud, is I build a column 3 tall, and then I just kind of do this. It's basically like a zigzag kind of thing, but 2 of them, so they're symmetrical, right? And I build it out a couple. It can be this long, it can be a couple longer, a couple shorter. It depends on the size and scale of the tree. And then I build the back out like that. And then I come by and I add another layer to the outside to make the kind of back end a little bit wider than the front end. And then I just add little spots like that just to kind of smooth the profile out. Okay? And if you notice, it has a similar kind of scalene triangular shape that we're talking about as being an ideal shape for an informal upright tree's silhouette. Right? You see how those things fit together? So that's intentional. And so if it's a part of the tree that's going to be towards the top or kind of be standing out on its own, it needs to be a little bit bulkier and a little bit more pronounced. So I will actually I'll actually come along and thicken it up a little bit, just add a little bit more meat to it. You see what I'm doing? And I might even kind of do this. Let's go ahead. Where's my shears? Here they are. There we go. So I might go ahead and do something like that, and then, you know, just kind of continue to thicken the branch up a little bit, just around it like that. Maybe bring this one out a little bit more, just to add a little bit more detail to it and just increase its mass a little bit, right? So we are still working with that same triangular shape. So what I'm going to do is, first, I'm going to go to the tips of each of the main branches and secondary branches, and I'm going to carry one of these on in whatever direction the branches are already pointing. So let's start with, I'm just going to do this one real quick down here and miss the space button. And then, so this is not one that's sticking out on the top thing, so I'm just going 3 high. Like that, and that's actually one too far. Come back here. Okay, so there's that. And then just like I just showed you, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of thicken that one up a little bit, just like that. Now, if they're like this, where they're hanging on the edge of the branch, I will occasionally come by and thicken up the bottom, just so it's not just a random log there that you can see as the end. But this is it. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue doing this on the tips of the rest of the branches, and then I'll bring you guys back in when I'm done with that step. Be right back. Okay, so we have the basic kind of points at the end everywhere except for the top. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to figure out, if you remember how this one clearly points in a direction, I'm trying to figure out which direction the top should point. Now, the whole tree kind of goes in that direction, so with the point going towards the monastery. So I'm thinking that's the way the top should go. So I'm going to make the top a little bit more special. I'm actually going to start down here a little bit, and we're going to have it pointing off on that diagonal like that branch is down there. So I'm going to start it down here, and I'm going to come out not too far. What I'm actually going to do is, that's not much farther than the standard branch. What I am going to do is actually increase the thickness on the back end and make the base of it a little bit bigger than normal. I'm also going to shift the center from there where I would normally make it to here. I'm going to bring it up just 1 block higher than I normally would. And you'll see why. It'll make sense in 1 second. Okay, let me throw a torch here so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to plop it right here. There. Good enough. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. And then, so I can see now that it needs to even be a little bit fatter in the butt, which, you know, so we'll do that, and I think that is pretty good. Let's just kind of smooth down that. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and throw torches under the points so that we can see them a little bit better. And then I'm going to bring you guys back so you can see how we're actually going to fill out the branches. Cool? I'll be right back. Okay, so we're making some progress. It is looking decently tree-like. You can see, I think even at night, you know, I'm just going to turn my brightness up just to help you guys out a little bit, because I don't want it to be, too dark. Let's go up to 50%, but no higher. There we go. Okay, so you guys can see it a little bit better now. So, okay, I finished them all up. I lit them up so you can see really a lot better. Obviously, I just increased the brightness. So what I also did was, on the longest branches, I put 2 spots where we're going to have, I guess these would be tertiary branches at this point, kind of coming out, but they're just going to be pure foliage, okay? And I'm going to explain how we're going to go ahead and do that. Remember, what I'm thinking about is, so there's this tuft in the middle that kind of forms this peak, and so I'm taking that into account with how closely I'm placing them. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is the branches. Okay, remember when I'm doing the kind of the leaf tufts here, I'm always going on a diagonal relative to the corners of the blocks. From here, I'm actually going to be going 2 diagonals on the same side of the block. So in other words, the direction of the branch is that way. Okay, the main direction away from the trunk is in that direction. So on that side of the block, I'm going to choose this corner and this corner, and I'm going to build tufts that are connected to each other off in that direction. Okay, so I'm just going to do one real quick here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, and then the center will be here. So I'm going to bring the build butt out a little bit, right? Something like that looks good. Okay, so that's one, and that's on that direction. And so I'm going to build the other one, right? So this is the center. I'm going to build the other one off in that direction, starting from here. See how I did that? And that one I made a little bit longer to fill in a little bit more of the back area. I just thought that would be a good idea. I'm following a general plan, and then you know, where necessary or where needed, I'm using my just personal taste. There's no real wrong way to do it. If you think it looks good, then it does. That's it. So, but that's how I do it. That's my basic process. So there's that one. Okay, there's that branch, and then I'm over here. I'm going to do the same thing again in those two directions. Now from here, it looks like that's going to be a little bit too close to do the branching, so I'm going to move it back one. Otherwise, the bottom of this tuft of foliage is going to cut too much into that. So I just slipped it back one. I'm going to refill my leaf blocks here. There we go. That one's actually a little bit too big, I think. There we go. And then from here. Okay. So we're going to just bulk up the butt a little bit. You know how we do. And then bring that up to level 3 like we do. And then just kind of, boom, kind of plunk it down. And then we're good. So that's all I'm doing. That is all I'm doing. Now, because we took care to naturally sweep up the branches, I have this already kind of sweeping motion built into the tree. So it's just much easier to do. We know on the inside of the tree, these are always going to be higher, and they're always going to come down and out. Now, I'm going to fill out a couple more in the bottom here, and then when we get to this one here, I'm going to actually switch up a little bit, and I'm going to show you why. I'll explain that when we get to it. So I'm going to fill in this branch and that branch, and then bring you guys back in for this one. Okay, so we are filling in, okay, and here's the thing. What I'm actually going to do with this one is I'm going to make this one one of a few exceptions to the rule, and I'm actually going to bring foliage across the trunk. Now, you're allowed to bring foliage across the trunk in certain spots, according, if we're, again, adhering, if you remember from the past episode, if we're adhering to general bonsai tree guidelines, you're allowed to bring foliage across, but no main or secondary branches like we have here. They can't cut across, because that's just not done. So we can bring foliage across at some spots. So I'm going to actually build one coming in this direction, right across the front. But I'm also going to have it build back in the opposite direction. Now, I built this one here, branching in this direction and this direction. So if I built this one across the front, going in that direction, it would look fine. But I will also have enough room back here, and I'm just going to mark the middle here. I'll also have enough room back here, and when I build what would be the back out, which is technically now the middle, this is going to look a little strange at first, but it'll make sense in a second here. Okay. So I basically have two backs back to back touching each other, right? So I build them up like that, like I normally would. I'm actually going to build, because we have a nice little archway in here, I'm going to make this one just a little bit higher. There we go. Actually, this one was a little too much. A little too much there. Alright. So now, as we view it from the front, You can see it kind of just breaking across the trunk of the tree. Now, seeing that there makes me think we need one a little bit lower too. We don't want to do too many of them, otherwise the tree is going to look a little choppy, which we don't want. And you can also notice as we go up the tree, as we go up, the amount of foliage increases. The density of the foliage increases. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the top. I'm going to bring this one. I'm going to get rid of that piece of wood. I'm going to bring this one to cut across so we can see it from that angle. This one to cut across again from the front. And then we're just going to kind of wing the top a little bit. I'll bring you guys back in when we're at the top. Okay, so we're almost done. Two things left to do. I said I'd bring you guys back in so we could take care of the top. And then there are a couple spots where the bottoms of things are a little bit too flat and they look a little bit less natural than I'd like. So we're just going to plunk a couple leaf chunks down here and there to smooth those out. So what I'm thinking for the top here is pretty much all we're going to need is one coming out in this direction and then one coming out in this direction, and I think we'll be good. So let's just plunk those in. Shouldn't be too hard. I think this is a little too far right there though. And I think this should be good. Also on this side I brought two branches across, and I'll show you why in a second. Let's just finish this out here real quick. So that will go there, and this will be 3 high here, but there's already one there, so you don't need to worry about that. And then I think just that should be it. I'm just gonna kind of fatten out the back here a little bit, and I think that's gonna look good. Let's hop down here and see. Yeah. So here we have our giant tree, and again, if we check the silhouette, it might be a little bit hard to tell, but we have the point here, top of the tree here, there, and we're roughly still within that triangular shape. Now we have this branch coming out a little far, so it looks a little natural. Same with this branch down here. We have a couple branches strategically placed to break the plane of the tree, to break the plane of the trunk. And then if we check it from this angle, from this side, we still have that triangular shape. If we come back to this side here, this is obviously just the mirror of the shape in the front, and part of it is obstructed by this tree here, but that's okay. And then we check from this side, and we have that triangular shape again. And obviously back from the front, we're good to go. So it's looking pretty good. Now I just want to, in the areas that there are larger pads, like right here, up here, here, and out here, I'm going to add a little bit of green to the underside just to kind of add a little bit more of a natural kind of outline. And I'm just going to hide a little bit of the wood to do that. Just like that. Just those couple of blocks there to smooth that out. Maybe one more. Boop. There we go. Maybe a little bit under here in this one. Maybe just kind of extend this line from the branch a little bit. Looking good. This one in here. Just like that, I think. Now I think these touches here are what, like we're adding some asymmetry, and we are breaking up the silhouette a little bit, and that's what is going to help something look a little bit more natural and a little bit less like we just kind of blindly followed a plan. Like we had, you know, there's a basic system I use to get a good start on the tree shape and the silhouette and a couple good basic rules, but at the end of the day we got to come in here and give it that final touch that breaks up the space and makes it look pretty solid, makes it look pretty natural, and I think pretty good. So there is first basic tree number 1, giant size, done. I kind of want to increase the peak here a little bit. I can't help it. There we go. Yes. There it is. What do you think? We just set a basic couple of guidelines, and then we followed through on those guidelines until we were done. We gave it one final pass, just using our own personal taste, right? Just trying to add in a couple blocks here and there, just to do what we thought made it look good. and we have a fairly epic tree to show for it. So that is it for this episode. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, MCMMO got wiped. One of the hardest things to level up, yet most rewarding, I think, other than taming, is herbalism, and I'm going to build a cool part in the coming week. I'm going to get a good start on the foundations for it. I'm going to bring you guys in to show you what I found to be the fastest way to level up herbalism. Now, if you're playing MCMMO, you're going to get yourself a bunch of, to prepare, you're going to get yourself a bunch of mushrooms, make you some podzol, Jesus, make you some mycelium, okay? Silk touch that stuff, get yourself a lot of it, and get ready for next episode. It's going to be awesome. Thank you, dudes, so much for taking a second to check this out. I hope you found it entertaining or useful. I hope you think this looks like a pretty solid tree. I think it looks very Asian, and I think it's going to fit. I think it fits what we have so far, and using these ideas are going to fit the rest of what we need to do really, really well. So let me know what you think. I love to hear from you guys. Other ideas for buildings that we need to build to, and jump on the server. Give me a hand. Help me out with this. Come on, dudes. Anyway, that is it. Again, thank you so much for taking a second to check this out. I will catch you guys next time. It's TheeRealDuke. I'm out.